Chapter 24. Round on both sides, high in the middle. Lex, a friend of mine who grew up around the block from me, was a grade below me during our school years, and she hung out with many of the same people I did. Lex had been living in Manhattan for over a decade by 2019. She and I had been in contact frequently since I had previously stayed in upstate New York. Lex knew my issues my BMW had been giving me. She helped me fund some of the repairs. When I let her know that the BMW was beyond repair and dead in the backyard at Dan's house, Lex encouraged me to look for a new car. When I found one, I let her know. Lex sent me a couple $1,000 difference between the money I had and the cost of the car. Dan agreed to drive me from Lansing to Cincinnati, Ohio to buy my next car. I decided, since I failed with the least reliable brand of car, I was going to buy the most reliable brand of car. Lex helped me buy a Lexus. Dan and I pulled into the dealership in Cincinnati. We checked out the car. Dan went with me on a test drive around the city. I had found my next vehicle. It was an IS350. It was black, it was sporty, it drove and handled well. Dan left to drive back up to Lansing. I stayed to finish the paperwork. I made sure I received the title with that car. Once I finished with the formalities, I drove my new car north from Cincinnati. I had a connection in Dayton, Ohio. Melanie was a 25-year-old white transgender girl. Melanie and I would be intimate in her room while waiting to score drugs. I always took her somewhere different to meet up with people she knew. The people we met were always different. Melanie knew a lot of people in the crystal scene. I happily paid her a finder's fee to pick up my drug of choice whenever I was in the area. I stopped to see Melanie in Dayton the night I bought the Lexus. I drove her across the city in my new car to a particularly bad neighborhood on the opposite side of town. I had basically lived in the Dayton area for 6 days a week during my tenure working for a company a few years prior. I had lived in the Dayton area with my friend Brian for a year when I was 19. I had many friends and associates throughout the Dayton area. I knew on that night in November of 2019 I had just driven to the worst possible part of the city. Melanie had taken me to see yet another group of her friends whom I had never met. We entered the house. 2 girls and 2 guys were inside. The plan that night was for Melanie to stay in the house while I took one of the guys on a run to pick up Crystal. Flip had an entire face full of tattoos. Some of the tattoos were indicative of the time he spent in prison. He had just won a fist fight outside his house before Melanie and I stopped over. Flip's knuckles were bleeding. He wrapped them in a towel. Flip's girl's phone rang. When she hung up, she told Flip that he was good to head out. I left Melanie and her 3 friends at the house. Flip grabbed a meat cleaver. He said he needed a weapon, and he told me he was ready. I learned that not only was Flip wanted by authorities for a murder, but he was also wanted by a rival set of a street crew for a retaliation hit, one which he and some of his associates had pulled on someone 2 days prior. There was a warrant out for him. There was also a hit out for him. Though I told Flip the meat cleaver was most likely a futile weapon if it came down to it, I never let him know about the 9mm handgun in my pocket. I didn't know if Flip planned to use his weapon to try to separate me from my money, so I took comfort in the ace up my sleeve in my pocket. That entire night became a seedy drive through the seedy areas of the city. On our first attempted stop, Flip identified someone waiting to attack him. I drove off before we even pulled in front of the house. We made another stop on the side of the road in a subdivision in the middle of what seemed like nowhere, an area just outside of downtown Dayton. We waited there for an hour. From the beginning, Flip was beyond paranoid. He questioned me about my affiliations. He questioned me to see if I was law enforcement. He continuously asserted his love for and history of violence. With people on both sides of the law looking for him, Flip seemed to have justifiable reasons for his paranoia. As we sat in my car on the side of the road in the middle of the night, I believe I gave Flip a sense of reassurance that I wasn't associated with any of the people looking for him. Had he intended to use the meat cleaver on me, he seemed to have reconsidered once we spent all that time talking. Flip was convinced he would be dead one way or another in the near future. I convinced him that I was not anyone who sought that result. After hours in my new car, Flip's phone rang as we sat waiting on the side of the road. When he hung up, he told me his guy was going to pull up in 10 minutes. I handed him a stack of money, and he counted it in front of me, twice. Flip put the money in his pocket. A car pulled up and parked in front of my Lexus. Flip got out, and then he got into the passenger side of the other car. I sat in my car with my hand on my handgun. It seemed like forever passed as I ran through all the possible scenarios I was facing. The passenger side window of the other car rolled down. Flip stuck his arm out the window and motioned me to follow them. The car in front of me crept down the road until it was around the corner in the subdivision. Then the car stopped in the middle of the road. I stopped my Lexus behind it. Flip got out of the passenger seat and walked back to my car. He got in my car and he told me there was a problem. I frowned as I asked what was going on. There's $400 missing. You didn't give me enough money. Dude, you counted it in front of me twice. I must have counted wrong. I need more. I gave you the right amount. We both counted it. I gave you all of it. Hang on. Flip jumped out of my car and jogged back to the car in the middle of the road in front of my new Lexus. Another 2 minutes passed and he stepped back out of the other car. As Flip walked back to me, the car in front of me peeled out and drove away. Flip got back in my car. He tossed me a sealed freezer bag pulled from under his shirt. It looked like the proper amount and I began driving out of the subdivision. Flip kept insisting I owed him another $400. I kept insisting that he was trying to run a con on me. We made it back across the city to Flip's house and I parked around the corner. I told Flip to search the car underneath his seat and on the floor to see if he dropped the money. I watched as he acted like he was looking for the money. He happened to pull my gun holster from the floor behind the seat. His demeanor changed. "What's this?" "The holster for my gun." Where's the gun?" "It's in my pocket." I'm not afraid of guns. You should have told me you had a gun with you. I wouldn't have brought the meat cleaver." Flip ran his mouth a bit when we were back inside his apartment. He insisted I shorted him on the money. I sucked up my pride and I threw a quarter-ounce down onto the plate to appease Flip's incessant complaining. I told Melanie we were leaving. I was mad throughout the entire drive back to Melanie's house. I didn't give her any money for her trouble that night. Instead, I scooped the shake from the bottom of the bag and I left her with what I was fairly sure was garbage someone had added to make the weight I had purchased. I left Dayton in a bad mood despite buying a new car that day. I drove the Lexus back to my storage unit in Perrysburg. I decided to sleep in my car at the storage unit that night. When I woke up the next morning, I had a thought. I inspected the underside of my passenger seat of my new car. To my half surprise, I found $400 underneath the seat of my Lexus. Melanie either reconsidered or she just couldn't locate the cash which Flip had tried to remove from my possession the night before. Buying the Lexus meant I had yet another car which needed an audio upgrade. The Lexus had a premium sound system already. There were 11 speakers and an amplifier. I had 4 amplifiers and another 20 speakers to add to the system. I also spent $700 to order a top-of-the-line interface to run with the control computer of the car. Dan and I had much more work to do at Dan's house in Lansing. The days and nights of partying at Dan's house continued. While my BMW sat in the backyard, I used my Lexus to travel as I pleased. My interactions with people from the website and the phone apps remained in full swing. My drug consumption never ceased. Dan, same as my friend Kevin, liked being the big man in the drug scene. I managed to remain a ghost to all but my closest friends in Lansing. The scene there in Lansing seemed far more treacherous than the scene in Detroit. Everyone knew each other. The groups and alliances all seemed precarious. People backstabbed people they said were their friends. Mostly everyone chased influence and wished to be the top dog in the Lansing underworld scene. I wanted nothing to do with notoriety. I was there to work on my car. I was fine with Dan soaking up the attention. One night, I returned from a visit to a friend. As I passed through Ann Arbor during a snowstorm, I hit a patch of black ice on an interstate overpass. My car spun as it slid into a cement barricade at the top of the overpass. I smashed my bumper and front end of my Lexus into the concrete as I slid across the bridge. My car was still running, so I continued the drive through the storm back to Dan's house. The next day, I ordered 22 parts so Dan would be able to fix my car. I spent 2 weeks stuck at his house again. Though the parts all arrived within 2 days of ordering them, Dan seemed to drag out the repairs. He was doing as he had done with the BMW. Dan liked having me there to provide drugs and order food every single day. Dan came and went as he pleased. I had people over on occasion for intimacy. Sometimes I would get picked up and go hang out at other houses. Mostly, though, I had to pester Dan to work on my car to get it back in running condition. For the time, it sat alongside my inoperable BMW out in the yard. After what seemed like forever, my Lexus was finally back to running condition. I needed to take trips to see people all over. I crisscrossed the Midwest and stacked money once again. I also continued to add to my video collection of shared intimate moments with partners. I stayed in hotel rooms around Michigan and all the major cities. Online interactions became real-world dynamics. If friends from around the country were anywhere close to me, we would get a hotel room and explore intimacy together anytime we could. Some interactions were a long time coming, others were impulsive meetings. I drove west late one night to meet a woman at a diner for coffee. We met and talked, but the connection just wasn't there. When the woman left, I walked out to my car and began checking the apps on my phone. I was in Grand Rapids and I figured I would find someone close to meet with before I drove back to Lansing. I came across a stunningly beautiful trans girl on one of the dating apps. I sent her a message. Selena was interested right away. "I'm at the hotel with my ex. Come here, I'd love to see you." "Nah, I'm not trying to meet up with multiple people." Selena had gone out to dinner with her ex, who was in town from New York. She had been hanging out with him at his hotel because she had no other plans for the night. I pulled into the hotel. I saw Selena walk into one of the rooms across the parking lot. She saw me and she held up a finger to let me know she would be a minute. I waited. A text came through. "Okay, I'm leaving now. Follow me." I had on a baseball cap and an unflattering, poofy winter coat. When I stepped from my car to walk up to Selena's apartment with her, I noticed the way she looked at me. We walked up the flights of stairs and into the apartment. She was still looking at me with suspicion. I played into it. I could tell Selena thought I was catfishing her. She stood there in her living room, looking standoffish. I smiled. "Am I not what you expected? How about I fix that for you?" I took off my poofy coat and my baseball hat. Selena breathed a sigh of relief. She walked up to me and wrapped her arms around me. She had legitimately thought I was a catfish. She thought the pictures on my profile were of someone else. Once I took off my outerwear, Selena saw I was exactly who I portrayed on the internet. "My profile pictures are from this week." "I believe you, I just hadn't been sure when you were all covered up." Selena and I did crystal, and we made love all over Selena's living room. Filled her as we switched positions in different places on the floor. We kissed passionately on the couch. We stretched our intimacy well into early the next afternoon. We both reached a point of sweaty exhaustion. I ordered pizza from an app on my phone. Figuring they would leave the food at the door, Selena and I took a shower together. 20 minutes into our makeout session, as the shower water cascaded over us, the bathroom door suddenly opened. I was in shock. The pizza delivery guy had not only walked into the apartment after nobody answered the door, but he even walked into the bathroom while we were showering. I grabbed a towel and chased the guy out of the apartment. I was mad about the invasion of privacy, but I also had another concern. Selena and I had been in the shower in the bathroom. The pizza guy had to walk through her living room to reach the bathroom. I had a handgun, drugs, and paraphernalia strewn about openly on the couch. I evaluated my belongings. Nothing had been taken, but it would have been impossible to walk by the couch without at least seeing the interesting items sitting there. Selena and I took a nap after we ate the pizza. When we woke up, it was dark in Selena's bedroom. "I'm going out to eat with some friends of mine. You can come if you want to." "I can't. I have to stop back at Lansing and see a few people before I head out of town again. My phone's blown up right now."